All right, people. This is a special episode of the film review. Movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to mind. You know, we're your hosts, the husband and wife team. I'm Crazy Dee,
Tracey,
who review culture in music, movies, politics, and society. And today's movie that we're reviewing today is The Sisters Brothers. Right. Tell them who the cast is.
Well, first, the novel was written by Patrick DeWitt.
Patrick DeWitt.
Right. And there's a talented cast of actors in this film. Well, Joaquin Phoenix is the lead.
John C. Reilly.
Right.
Well, John C. Reilly is the lead,
right,
and Joaquin Phoenix is the co-star.
Right.
You know, who else is in there?
Well, in the movie, the brother. Once you see the movie, the brother is the star, but you know,
he's actually we'll get into it. But John C. Reilly is actually the one that's going through what I would call the hero's journey.
Right.
So go ahead and find that real quick. We got a second. So the soundtrack on this, we need to talk about this first and get this out the way. The soundtrack on this is like kind of gives you reminiscent of, but not quite, but reminiscent of The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, all of the films with Clint Eastwood as the cowboy with no name, the no-name cowboy. The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, A Few Dollars More,
right,
things like that. It doesn't sound like that particular composer, but it's iconic because it moves within the film and it moves the film along. The music is definitely a character in the film.
Yeah. It
moves it along. When there's action going on, there's certain music that's being played, right, that's moving this along, right?
Yep. So the film is starring Joaquin Phoenix, John C. Reilly, Jake Gyllenhaal, Riz Ahmed.
Now let's tell them who Riz Ahmed is. If you ever seen the HBO short mini drama, right, called It Happened One Night, something like that. Yeah, right. And he gets with a girl, you know, and has a fling with her, right, and he gets caught up into this crime because someone murders her in this house, and then the whole story picks up from there. That's the initiating event, right, and from then on, it's a person who's usually in Spike Lee films. I can't think of his name right there, but he's usually the Italian guy in the films of Spike Lee, and he actually is a half-baked or defense attorney who is like on his last leg, a defense attorney, and usually he gets people and gets them to plea, but for some reason he sees this guy sitting in the holding cell, and for some reason he just believes in him. Right. And then you have to see that short mini on HBO. You can go see it. They have it up on HBO. So he is an actor who is actually a hip-hop artist.
Yep, a British
hip-hop artist, though he's from Pakistani descent. Right? But he's actually a hip-hop artist who actually made it into acting, and that was his first role in that HBO short mini drama, like 6 episodes or so, telling the story. They don't call them mini-series anymore because mini-series just go more days. But anyway, so he was great in it as he comes up with this invention. We're not going to give away the story, but the whole story is wrapped around the prospecting era of 1851, the gold rush that was happening in San Francisco and other parts of California. And the story starts from people, well it goes from this person is traveling from the east over to the west to, you know, do this new invention he came with to discover gold. And so that's his character. Then they have who's his friend in it? Jake Gyllenhaal.
Right.
Jake Gyllenhaal is a private detective that is tracking this guy for the Commodore. Right? And he then strikes up a friendship with him. Now it's questionable. You have to watch the film. They really don't talk about it, but I swear that this was like Brokeback Mountain 2 a little bit in this storyline between the two people. They had a respect for each other. He's kind of like he's an English type of English from England type of guy who's over in America trying to run from his lineage and his money. Basically, he's tired of being around his father. That's Jake Gyllenhaal's character. Right. Now these are supporting characters, right? But they are well fleshed out. They have a backstory that is told very well in this story. It's amazing how much of a backstory that they have.
Yeah, because you talked about the multiple storylines going on within the film.
Yeah, it's multiple storylines going on in the film, so it's more like an ensemble cast.
Yeah.
But it is definitely a hero's journey. So then we come to John C. Reilly. Now you usually know him from being in the quirky comedy films along with
character actor.
Yeah, character actor, but he's usually in the quirky comedy films along with the comedy genius of what's the guy from Saturday Night Live who did all those different. He played. Well, anyway, we're staying on him. So he's the brother, and he is the older brother, and then Joaquin Phoenix plays the younger brother. And why I call this a hero's journey? Well, first of all, let me tell you what a hero's journey is.
Okay,
a hero.
I want to say hi, Tanya.
Okay, so the hero's journey is usually a story where you meet the character and they're just normal and they're in their world, and then something happens and the world cracks, and then the initiation event happens and the world cracks, then the person has to go on this adventure, and in between time of taking this adventure, they're learning their craft. It's like any classic kung fu or gung fu movie that you would see, where they learn their trade and then they learn their craft, and then they're able to, and they have friends along the way, partners along the way that help them out along the way until they can get back home. And that's usually what the hero's journey is. Usually a bit gloom in it, where something happens, a main supporting character might pass away, and then that person has to go on, and in the end they arc and they become not only just that ordinary person, but they have a new skill set that then takes them on into the end, and by the end of the film they are fully arced and they are who they are, like Luke Skywalker. In the beginning he was just a young teenager basically on the planet. Something happens, he goes to see Obi-Wan Kenobi because R2-D2 comes and shows Princess Leia. He takes it to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Meanwhile, while Obi-Wan Kenobi is taking him back, when he gets back, his aunt and uncle are murdered, and that's the initiating event that kicks it off to say, okay, this was his normal world, now his world is cracked. Now, in the Sisters Brothers movie, the world is already cracked, so you don't see their life before. They're already in it. And let me tell you something, let's talk about the cinematography for a minute.
Oh my gosh, it was just breathtaking. The landscape was just beautiful, just scenic, and like you said, the cinematography, like the angles, it was just like well done. It was a story within the cinematography.
Yeah, it kind of puts you in the mind of a John Ford film. If anyone knows John Ford and how he would take John Wayne out there into the different parallels between 30 and 40 latitude and 50 latitude, where there's desert and then there's greenery and then you see the mountains and all that. That's what this film reminds you of. The landscape the land is definitely a character in the film. It drives the film because the backdrops and all that, all of that takes you into the world of this film, and it makes the whole world, and it is a character. The mountains, the land, the ground, the dirt,
just everything,
the trees, everything.
And then I'm not gonna the one scene, like without any words, it told the story in the cabin when the camera moved.
Oh yeah,
and you can tell time passed.
Yeah. It's beautiful filmmaking. The cinematography on it, it's just like anything else. But then there's some new advances on moving time along that I have to give credit to the director and the cinematographer.
I hadn't seen that done.
It's real good. Well, I've seen it in videos, but not to the extent of what they did here. They borrowed from some of the greats, Hype Williams and all that, because they borrowed from some of our greats to pull this off. But the way that they do it, it's really amazing. It's the acclimation back to home, which is the story that they tell through visual. Because for people that don't know, TV is more about the dialogue, and so is stage. But when you get to film is told, there's dialogue, but film is told through the visual. And so it's beautiful. It's the whole visual. So we set that up. So cinematography, the soundtrack.
The soundtrack was amazing, done by Alexander Desplat. This was his first Western score. He won an Academy Award for the film The Shape of Water. And this movie right here, from beginning, like the very first scene, like 5 minutes in, I said to him, this music is nice. This is not the traditional Western type
film
music, right? And
it's definitely a movement forward from what happened with Sergio. I can't think of the last name of the person that was over in Italy when Clint Eastwood went over there and played in the Italian westerns, which was the Cowboys, the 3 films he did, the Cowboy with No Name cowboy films. But like I said, we have to go over it again. The music, character in the film, the cinematography, the landscape, character in the film. Okay, if you don't have those particular shots, then it doesn't feel like a traditional Western where they were going. But they also brought in new cinematography, movement of camera to tell the story. Now,
and the acting was excellent. I mean, you knew that. Well, I just had a feeling that the acting was going to be great, especially based on the actors.
Yeah, because you got Jake Gyllenhaal, and Joaquin Phoenix, and Joaquin Phoenix and Jake Gyllenhaal actually spend about 5 minutes on screen, interacting with each other, having an in-depth conversation without action. There's actually a dialogue between the 2 actors, which are good. But I can tell you that Jake Gyllenhaal was really playing his part because he actually put an accent on it. Now, knowing that period of time, people wouldn't talk like they wouldn't use the abbreviations. They would say they would not talk like someone, so they would talk the straight English, and it wouldn't be the apostrophes and taking the letters out. But so that language was more modern. But what Jake Gyllenhaal was doing was definitely definitely in the character and staying in the character, and without him it would not have seemed as realistic to show you that different people were coming from different places. Okay, so the cinematography now, the scene opens. Why I say this is the hero's journey, but it is changed and updated and moved along. You're in the middle of the hero's journey because the person is already arced. They are already who they are as a brother team who hunts down people. So it opens with a wide shot. And the wide shot stays on the screen for about 30 to 45 seconds on the screen. And then you hear the dialogue, you hear the call out from them, and you don't know exactly where it is because it's dark. But what they do is they use the pop of the guns to illuminate where they are. So it starts with a wide shot, then it drops to a medium shot, then it drops to mid shots of the actors as you see them doing their thing, and then you see them pull in on medium shots shooting down the people. So it's beautiful cinematography, one-on-one of cinematography, how you open with a wide shot, medium shot, close up, boom, boom, boom. So right there, it's just staying textbook to what it is. Great camera angles and work on that. So you're already introduced to them. They are already who they are as a brother assassin team. We might as well just call them. They're assassins. Right. You know, they're working for a person named the Commodore, and they get a new mission, and their new mission is to go out and find this person. They don't know why they're, well, at least the audience doesn't know, and John C. Reilly's character, the older brother, doesn't know, but the Commodore takes a liking to the younger brother, which is Joaquin Phoenix's character. And he takes a liking to him, and there's certain secrets that he keeps, that Joaquin keeps from his brother, right? And as the characters, and he keeps certain secrets, but he is the younger brother, and he is reckless. And this is what the story is about his recklessness. And as the story is told, you start to learn why he is reckless. Right. You know, you start to learn these things. And you also learn about their relationship as brothers. The closeness. Yeah, the closeness. The one brother, like you said, is reckless, and then the other brother is more, well, he's cerebral. Right. You know, he's a thinker. Right. And he is also actually the hero of this hero's journey piece. So now, we're not going to tell. Hey, I'm not going to tell a story, but he is the hero, and his brother is the one that often gets them into situations. You have to see this film. Right. So it's a hero's journey. The reason why it doesn't start, so they start there in already being who they are as a family member, and then as it goes along, you get the people who become allies, unwitting allies, or unexpected allies along the way. There's a big gloom, and then there is a conclusion where you head home, and it's unexpected. So what's interesting about this piece is, even though they open up and you see the gun battle, it's about 30 minutes or 35 minutes in before you get to the initiating event. And the thing is, and there's not a dull or boring moment. Like the movie, from beginning to end, you're in. It's like from the first 30 to 35 minutes, it's just cuts of scenes of letting you know who these men are, because you don't get the traditional hero's journey where they start just normal or considered weak, and then they get strong. So it's a 30 to 35 minutes before they meet up with the first, well, the Commodore is an antagonist, but when they meet up with the antagonist that's trying to peel their cap, it takes about 30 minutes, and you meet the person named Mayfield. The Mayfield character is there to try to peel their cap, okay? And so you're captured, you're gripped in from the beginning. So I mean, so you're there. I'm not telling how it happens, but it's there, and that person is as a actor is well, you'll see once you get to the movie theater. The director of the film, as well as the screenwriter, is Jacques Audard. He's a French filmmaker. Yeah, you see, ever since they opened up the studios, people, Remember what we talked about when Sony, when they found out that the Sony woman was saying that black people can't sell overseas and all that, and once those leaks came out through the WikiLeaks or whomever released it, I forget the name of the people now because they kind of like moved them out the way now, but once they leaked all that and they opened up the studios, now you have French studios coming in doing American themed film with American actors, Japanese, Chinese, and when you go there you see who is actually producing these films.
And but like great storytelling of different different aspects, like the Searching movie we saw.
Yeah.
And it wasn't based on an American,
right, because they're looking on the outside, looking in, and then they're telling the story from their perspective of what an American or what the West was to them by the different writings that were being sent over and the different comic books that were being drawn at the time and sent overseas to tell the genteel people overseas that were still dressing in wigs and powdered faces what was going on in 1851.
What I thought was interesting in this film, and I'm not going to give anything away, but they went more into detail and what it actually was like for a cowboy or someone that lived during this period. Yes. Because usually, you know,
harsh. When it was harsh,
right? When we watch westerns, it's kind of
like the person is just a Superman.
Yeah,
already.
I mean, it doesn't go into like detail on, you know, just the little things like the.
Just
I don't even want to give it away. Just
little things that happen in the desert. And dealing with desert animals and critters.
Yeah, when you see it, you would say, "Oh, well, that would make sense. They would have experienced that."
Yeah, but then you also ask, you say, "Why is that in the film?" But then later, you find out that was just to move. It was a story beat to move the story along to show you why the one character wanted to have enough with what they were doing.
Right.
And that's what we'll say with that. So
it was really a really good film.
Yeah, it's
excellent.
It's definitely well worth seeing.
Right.
Well worth the price of admission, and it's 2 hour and some minute film.
Yeah, 1 minute, 2 hours and 1 minute.
2 hours and 1 minute film, and you are gripped in from the opening all the way into the end. And I can tell you the end, using the aspects of music video making and passing time along and moving time along, it will capture you in, and you will say, wow, that's incredible.
Right.
Because you did not know that they even had anything to go back to, because within the dialogue and within a flashback scene, you learn about a harsh father. Right? And you don't even realize that there is anything for them to go back, or anyone for them to go back to. And so it's interesting. And I wonder if the Red Shaw was not, we thought it was a love interest, right?
Right. I think it was.
But I thought it was probably, now that you see it, because he didn't go back to. But anyway, you have to see the film, people. Right? You have to see the film. It's well worth seeing. Very entertaining. Western up.
You know, it's a good film when, I think this is your first time out of all of the reviews where you stopped in the middle and thought of like a part in the film.
Yeah, a story beat. Yeah. What makes this story interesting is you see multiple stories within this short period of time. It's not just set into, okay, they're going after this guy who's a prospector, but you see them, what they do, then you see their interaction. So there's different stories that go along with each place. They run into many different difficulties in between, but it's not the same storyline. Like if you watch what is that, Lord of the Rings, it's the same storyline. So everyone that comes in has to do with trying to help find this ring. This is not that type of film. So it's an ensemble cast, and it really, because it's a hero's journey at the same time, it kind of masks the fact that it is an ensemble cast film. It masked that.
It should definitely get some Oscars.
Yeah, I think so. I think the soundtrack itself, because at the end, it's a piece that's playing at the end. And you know, it's funny. The film ends, but they go through all the credits, and they show you all the different countries that they shot in.
Right.
They shot in different countries to represent America, right? But again, they shot in between the 40th and 30th latitude, sometimes in between the 30th, 40th, and 50th latitudes. Anyone knows about latitudes, depending on if you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, those different latitudes are exactly the same across the planet. If you're on the northern hemisphere, 30 to 50 of latitude are the same. If you're on the southern hemisphere, 30 to 50 latitude south is the same as 30 to 50th latitude north. It's the same environment, the same ecosystems, the same deserts, the same plushness, the same whatever. Within those latitudes, that's what you learn in geography. When you go to film school, you have to learn geography, because you could be in the desert and it could be an ephemeral lake, and an ephemeral lake means that the water disappears. But if it's a flash rainstorm like what happens in Las Vegas, and you're in the ephemeral lake, you are going to drown. And so that's what you learn when you take it. You learn about geography, and that's part of it. So them being able to go across all these different lands and represent America, because in the Great Plains, so to speak.
And the ocean scene was beautiful also.
Oh yeah. When they get to the ocean, I mean, it's incredible. But we don't want to get out of the way
the
from
lake.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful movie. It's just worth seeing. The cinematography and then
places.
And the acting is just A-list actors.
That's right, A-list actors. Yeah. Especially Jake Gyllenhaal really
Phoenix
brings it home, and then John C. Reilly, he really brings it home. He's usually a comedic actor, but he brought this home, and he is the hero of the piece going through this journey. And in the end, when they get to where they're going, you're like, wait a minute, is something getting ready to happen? Is something getting ready to happen? And at the end, well, you'll see. This
was a good role for him.
Yeah, really great role for him.
I think this is the best role I've ever seen him.
Yes, he really, usually they would play him as probably being a slow character. Right. And at the first, when you first open up the film, you think, is he slow? But then you find out who he really is. No, I mean, in the beginning, because
I just thought he was just laid back.
He was more.
His brother was.
He was more cerebral, like you said.
Right. His brother has a lot of this rah-rah like attitude, like, you know, kind of gangster type attitude.
Gangster type attitude.
And he's more like laid back.
Yeah, he's more cerebral. He thinks, and he's figuring things out. So in the beginning, I think they did that first to mask who he was, but then as the story is told, you find out that he is the hero actually taking this journey, and he's making sure that he takes care of his younger brother in the process. So it's a great film. The trailer doesn't do it any justice, but the trailer did just enough to make you want to see the film. So that's where we will do it. So
Riz Ahmed is definitely
he's spinning a few different things. Yes,
he's
coming from hip hop music.
Yep.
Coming from
he's a British rapper.
Something, making something from nothing.
Kind of like with Will Smith.
Any of the others? LL Cool J. And many.
Ice-T,
most definitely. Ice-T. Ice Cube,
Common.
Come on.
Queen Latifah.
Yeah, that's right.
Like so many of them.
So many. Yeah. So, thanks hip hop. Yeah. Thanks Bronx, 1973. Okay, people. So we've been over cinematography, music, landscape, acting, We can't really tell you any scenes because we want you to really see this film.
Right.
It's well worth seeing. It will be worth the price of admission.
Sister, brother.
The Sisters, Brothers.
Sisters, brothers.
Right. So, what would you rate the film?
A 10.
Okay. All right. And so, I'm gonna rate it a 10 too. It's definitely very entertaining, and
Oh, it's socially conscious also.
Okay, expound.
With Riz Ahmed's character was, he talked about a community that they were building and
trying to build.
Well, he said there were already people there.
He was kind of like
they were trying to bring more people.
He was kind of like, to me, like a David Koresh type of character, people, where it would have started out, it would have seemed like it would have been nice, but in the end it would have been Waco and the Lone Ranger, the real Lone Rangers would have had to come down there and
he seemed
cover.
peaceful, maybe like peaceful. The Dalai Lama,
but he was able to extract from people,
right,
just through conversation, their deepest inner thoughts, and they felt free to actually tell their business to him.
Right.
So in that aspect of it, he was more like a David Koresh type character. Anyone that is has a charisma,
right,
and who knows how that would have ended up.
Yeah, but see, his goal was to bring people together so they can live in a peaceful,
to have a true democracy,
right,
where people, it wasn't not about greed, but when you understand what democracy is about, democracy is actually the form of capitalism that we have in America.
Because remember, this is during the Western period, so his goal was to live within the community with no violence, shooting, and because that was all around. This is
we've seen those
Wild West.
We've seen those communities before, right?
Right. So
Yahweh Ben Yahweh. We've seen Dr. York. We've seen Koresh. What was the other one? Oh, the big one, Jim Jones. And drink the Kool-Aid, and what I'm saying. So we have seen those before.
And you also see in this film what happens when one becomes too greedy.
That's right.
And while you're watching, you're kind of like, okay, well, when is enough? And then it's like, okay, well, you just destroy something that could have been beautiful over greed. So it's really, really worth seeing. There was just so many different stories and going on, and it was really thought-provoking.
Yeah, and the greedy often ended up having a bad situation.
Sometimes you never know, right?
But see the film. It's a great one. Also, this is brought to you by, should have said this in the front, the Black Ice Chronicles The Shifter. It is on Vimeo on demand for $2.99. Go there, watch The Shifter. It's the film that kicked it all off.
Which also has an amazing soundtrack.
It is funny.
Right.
It has the right jump points in it. Won me the curator's pick at the French Fest film festival. That's the one that kicked it off. That brought us out here in the first place.
Great film. Halloween is tomorrow.
That's right. It's well worth seeing.
It's a Halloween film.
And wait a minute, coming out tomorrow is the 4th installment of A Preacher's Life, starring this particular part stars Roland M. Matthews, Algie Jenkins, who is playing in Eclipse at the Smith Center this weekend from this November 2nd to the 4th. So it stars those two. She is
a great actress.
Great actress. Yes, that's right. She is in. Whenever she comes, she shows up, shows out, delivers her lines, and brings the characters that are right to life. So definitely that debuts tomorrow. at 9 a.m. Western, which is Pacific Daylight Time. They changed it from Pacific Standard Time to Pacific Daylight Time. 9 a.m., 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, and all the different graduations between Mountain and Central. It debuts at that time period, and you're able to watch this film, watch this installment. And we're going for the test read auditions for the next installments that are coming out, you know, gradually. They come out in spring and they come out in the fall, as promised. So you're an actor and you want to be seen, heard, recognized, and appreciated by projects that when you work on them, they actually come out. Then you go on ahead to submit your headshot, your bio resume to lordlandenterprises@hotmail.com. That's lordlandenterprises@hotmail.com. Don't forget to put the S on enterprise, right? And send that in, and we will be in contact with you because the test read auditions are coming up. And you interpret my words, and I'm gonna write something especially for you. And it's a great piece, and everybody loves it, and you will be seen, heard, recognized, and appreciated. And go watch all the first 3 installments and get ready for the 4th installment. I'll be pushing that all across the FB pretty soon. So stay tuned. You've been watching the film review. That's music. Well, that's movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to our minds.
Right.
We are the husband and wife team. I'm Crazy Dee.
Tracey.
And we review culture in movies, music, politics, and society. And we'll see you next time.